Now we'll go ahead and get into actually doing the lift, which is just, we're gonna lower this spring out, put the puck in there, put everything back together. Now in order to do that, we got to take a few things apart. First thing, 10 millimeter here. Go ahead and take that out. Now that's free to move about. I'll go ahead and stick that screw back in there. Go ahead and undo the tie rod end here. That's just a 21 millimeter. A couple of taps on that should break it free. Now we can pull that out, move it out of our way. Now we can move the knuckle around a bit. I was just taking this bolt off as a 18, but I'm going to keep that with a couple threads on there. Okay. There we go. So that snapped out. That's why I left the bolt on there, so when it dropped down, it didn't just completely drop off. Now we got to do one of two things: either loosen sway bar disconnect here, or just loosen the entire sway bar. I think I'll just probably just do the whole sway bar, since I got to do it on both sides. These can be a bit finicky, so it's easier. I think we'll just take its nut and a bolt on both sides, and you just drop the whole sway bar down and then just kind of let it float. Now everything I've seen has recommended taking the axle bolt off and pushing this out, so you're not putting any stress on the CV, which I've never had to do before. It's never really been a concern, but to err on the side of caution, I'm going to go ahead and do that. So it's just it's a 35 millimeter. It's not keyed or anything like that, so it should just come loose. Hit it on there to push that axle out. I keep the bolt on there. I don't want to completely kick it out of there, but give it some extra space. If you don't have an air hammer, just a chisel and a mallet should do, or a punch, or anything that you can stick in there, and just give it a couple of whacks. I'm going to get the air hammer I have out and do that, because I'm going to need it for the next step anyway. So let me get that all set up. Okay, so I'm not sure what happened here, but it seems that we got some time-lapse footage. I'm going to try to explain what's happening. I knocked out the CV axle to get some more room there, and I was trying to take the shock out. Now the stock shocks have these bolts on the bottom, and I tried to air hammer those studs out as well, and it did not work. So what I ended up having to do here is tightening those bolts back up so that I could get a little bit of room to actually pull the shock out from the top without pulling those studs out. So here I finally got it out. Then I was able to loosen the bolts underneath and pull the entire shock out. Then what we did next is took it over to the vise and worked on trying to hammer these studs out, which ended up taking a long time. There's just a little bitty lip that's on here. Getting that lip rested on the vise. So it's not going through the rubber at all, is what I had to do. Just getting it lined up on there isn't exactly the easiest, because there's not much of a lip at all. But that seemed to be the trick, getting it rested. So when you're hitting it, it's not resonating through the shock or through the bushings at all. It's just straight. It's straight supported. Finally got it through there. Now they're press fitted in there when they're torqued. It pulls that in there tight. And they were in there tight. How they are, press fit in, the nuts underneath, but I don't like having the threads exposed as one of the low points here. So that's why I just use some new hardware so we can put them up that way, have the nuts up there. Plus it'll make it a whole lot easier to get those in. So yeah, I'm not gonna be able to reuse that as much as I've banged on the head of it. And this one actually, I don't know, that one's actually bent a bit. It looks like almost S-shaped. So yeah, took a lot to get those out. They're out though. They're not in good shape, so like I said, I wasn't too worried about keeping them in good shape. I'm just going to get new bolts to go up through the other way and just tighten that down, torque that down. The destruction part is done for one side. So now we have, you just take the spacer. For these, we need to use the bolts that we took off that were originally holding these bolts in. These, which were 15 millimeters. We put those on. Now the instructions say to torque these down to whatever the original equipment torque is for these bolts. I have no idea what that is, so I'm gonna have to go look that up, and then we could tighten these down. It looks like it should be 46 foot-pounds, so I got this tightened down. Now one thing to notice, this bolt actually does stick up above the top of this a little bit. Now, since we're using this additional spacer, it's got extra holes drilled and they fit in there, so that's not going to be a problem. But if you're not using this spacer, then you would need to grind, I don't know, about a 1/16 or so off the tip of that bolt for that to fit, which I imagine is going to be the case for the rear when we get around to doing the rear ones, because it's not going to have this extra spacer on top here. So got that done. It is now time to take this over and put the top end in first. So yeah, it fits in much easier without these bottom bolts in. I'm just sticking the bolts on there to a little bit loose. Put a couple of threads on there just so it doesn't fall out. Now what we have to do is we have to turn that a bit. Alright, so I just put that stud back in there a little bit just so I could get a pry bar on there and twist that. So now everything's lining up a bit, and get my new hardware. They're 1/2 inch grade 8 bolts, 3 inches long, which is how long the studs were. Alright, and then top side has got a lock washer and a nut. Now instead of the studs, we have these bolts. As I said, threads are up on the top side, so they should be a bit more protected. I already forgot what the torque setting for these bolts are. I think it's like 90 foot-pounds for 1/2 inch grade 8 bolts. I believe the torque is 90, so I'll get those torqued. Once we get everything together, I'll come back through and torque everything. Next thing we got to do is get this jack positioned back underneath here. Alright, now we got this bolt on. I just snugged. I'm gonna go ahead and tighten up these top bolts, tighten this up. Then we could put our tie rod back in, and this side should pretty much be done. Put our tie rod end in. And put our harness back on, wiring harness there. And like that, we are done with one side. I'd like to say it went smoothly, but getting those studs out of the bottom proved to be a challenge. The bushing here on the bottom of the shock works a little too well. Like any impact, like from the air hammer or just a regular hammer trying to bang those out, I was getting absolutely nowhere with that bushing there. Just absorbed any of the impact. So actually getting that little ledge on the outside of that pin was the only way I was able to get that out. Now, now I got everything put back together on this side. The only thing that's not put back is the sway bar, which is still hanging down because I need that down still to do the other side. I'm not going to bore you with doing the other side. It's going to be more of the same unless I run into anything else. I'm just going to go ahead and do the other side. Well, I actually found a good use for the stock crash bars that I took out. It fits perfectly right around the outside of the get rid of this box. I don't need that, but it fits right around the outside of that stud, which makes it a lot easier to get balanced on there and beat the shit out of it. So that actually went much smoother. So instead of trying to get just the little edge, you just rest the whole thing in there, right there in the corner. And that goes much quicker than the other side went. We have a bit of a squat in the back. We'll do final measurements once everything is once the back is done too. Looks about 39.5, which originally was 36 1/4, so that's up 3 inches. 3 1/4 inches, about 9.5, which before we were 6 1/8. So not close to 3 inches. Yeah, I mean, the front's done, but you could tell it definitely towed the top out. It pushed the top end of those wheels out a bit, it looks like. So we'll have to go into alignment to get the camber fixed on that and get that straightened out on the front. The rear nothing should change really on the rear, I don't think, but yeah, we'll definitely take it in to get to an alignment. Another way you could do this, instead of taking the studs off the bottom of the coilover, another way you could do it would be possibly to just take the lower control arm off. I figured if I did that, I would screw up the alignment even more than just what it would get screwed up by putting the puck in there. So it should be fairly close to alignment, should be pretty good. It's just the camber that should be off, and you could definitely tell that it's off. It's the front wheel, you know, it's leaning, the tops are leaning out, so we'll need to get that adjusted. All right, in theory now, the back should be a bit easier. We got the bolts on the top to take out, so there should be 3 bolts there, and then 1 bottom bolt on the shock to pull that out, then put the spacer on there, put everything back. So it's a lot less steps. Now the instructions should say take the liner out, or just take these 3 fasteners out, and then you can kind of wiggle everything, work your way in there, behind there. But for the sake of the video, to make so you can actually see what's happening in there, I'm going to go ahead and pull the whole liner out. Screws, it appears. The passenger side took me a whole lot less time. It took me about an hour and a half to get the that side done. Nowhere close to the 6 hours it took me to do the driver's side. That looks like there is a hidden one underneath, a hidden screw right underneath the rock rail there. So that's probably like a 7mm, 6mm, something like that. Well, there's just a number of those across there, 2 in the back, and then those, and then this whole thing should come right out. Well, minus the little 6mm in there. Wheel liner's out. Ain't nothing much to it. It's pretty thin plastic. It's got some insulation of some sort there, and there's not much inside. And we got the frame, and we got the bolts. It's same as the front. It's 15mm. That comes out pretty easy. Like the fronts, these studs actually do stick up a hair taller than the spacer here. So what I'm going to do, get the angle grinder with a flap disc and just grind that, it's like a 1/16 maybe, grind that down, which there's plenty of space there before we even get to the threads, so that shouldn't hurt anything. We should be able to grind that down fairly easy without causing any troubles. All right, I think we are good now. Wasn't a whole, like I said, it wasn't a whole lot that had to be taken off, just a bit. So now this just goes back on. Have a similar situation we had on the front, where this is now out a few degrees, so now we're going to twist that around. Let's finish tightening that down. And then, like the front, these top bolts are going to get torqued down. The back is significantly easier. They took about 45 minutes, an hour per side on the back. A bit longer in the front. But this just goes back in there. easily. I just do it with one hand. And the only pain in the butt on the back really, and that's if you're taking this whole thing off, and if you have the rock rails on there, is that bottom screw, which is like a 6mm, and I don't have a socket or ratchet that fits, or ratchet and wrench that fits in there, so it's kind of a pain in the butt, but it's not bad. So the back, super easy. I don't think anybody would have a problem with that. Front is a bit more challenging, but it's doable with some regular hand tools. Be prepared to bang on things. The back, pretty easy, but I'll go ahead and put the rest of these in, button up this side and take care of the other side, and then we'll put everything down on the ground and see how it looks. Are lifted and leveled, but let's see. In the back now, we are at 8, just shy of 8.5, and right rear we were 6 3/4, so just shy of 2 inches from ground to fender. We are now at 39. We started out 37 1/4, so yeah, like I said, just a 1/4 inch shy of 2 inches. And in the front, our total height is also 39 inches, so the front came up almost 3 inches, or came up 3 inches. Floor to fender is 39 in the back, floor to fender in the front is 39. So that is level, and it is lifted from a couple inches. Now I think that front might come down just a smidge, because if we look at it, I don't know how well it shows, but those wheels are cambered out like that. It looks like we've got more than enough room. So I think once our new wheels and tires come in, we'll be able to slap them on there and complete the transformation, and I think we'll be good. Yeah, I mean, that was it. That was installing the 4-wheel parts level lift kit. I hope you liked the video. If you did, let me know by hitting the thumbs up. If you didn't, thumbs down works too. If you'd like to see more videos like this in the future, hit that subscribe button, and I will see you next time.